Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic Non-Classics. This is episode number 1107 and Doubleshot number 1002. Two DC trades. First up, it is a book that I just got just today, and I figured though, now I had already reviewed the previous book for the series, but I figured though I got this book and say, read it, and I figured I would talk about it. And this is Batman KnightQuest-The Seach. Fun fact about this particular story arc. Prior to this book coming out, this story had never been collected trade before. For some reason, like in the original trades, this one was skipped over for some reason. Yes, this saga was skipped over for some reason. I think even the 2012 books basically skipped over this one, but not this one. Nope. This one collects... Now here's the thing about this one. There's no issues of Batman or Detective Comics part of this trade. Yeah, it's the first storyline not to involve either of those two series. It's mostly... This is what's in here. Justice League Task Force 5 through 6. Batman, Child of the Bat, 21 and 23. The first and only time in the saga you see issues from Legends of Dark Knight. Issues 59 to 61 and Robin Volume 4, number 7. Yep. Now here's the thing. 2 out of the 4 things basically in here are written by Danny O'Neil, and that's just like Task Force issues and Legends of the Dark Knight. Those 2 books are written by Danny O'Neil. Shadow of the Bat, Alan Grant, Robin, Chuck Dixon. Yeah, surprisingly for something involving Chuck Dixon, whose role could Chuck in the storyline, he only does the Robin issue in here, which is quite surprising, because mostly it's all Danny O'Neil. Now, the just like Task Force issues, it's basically Bruce Wayne working with 3 members, just like, the artwork in here is by Sal Valento, Brett Bivens, Ron Wagner, Tom Grammett, and Eduardo Barreto. Yes. The cover is by Tom Grammett, Roy Giesking, and Alan Prosky. Now, the first issue in here for just like Task Force. Now, you probably know when I start showing the cover, you're probably like, okay, now one of the characters, aside from Bruce Wayne and one other character, you're probably like, who are these 2 other characters? Well, you have Green Arrow. And you look at Green Arrow like, wait, is that Green Arrow? Where is his mask that he's known for wearing? Well, there is a kind of an explanation for this. At this point in time, Green Arrow never wore a mask. Yeah, this came out during the time when Mike Groh was writing the comic book. Yes, when Mike Groh was writing the Green Arrow comic book. Yes. As for why he's here, well, quite simply, the main reason why he's there is simple. Because Denny O'Neil has experience writing him, so he figured, though, why not include him? Bronze Tiger. You are thinking, wait, isn't he associated with the Suicide Squad? Mostly, yes, but here's something interesting, though, about Bronze Tiger. He is a creation of Denny O'Neil. So, yes, Denny O'Neil is working with 3 characters which he has written before. This guy he created and these 2 worked with previously, so he has experience with all 3 of these characters. Gypsy, as far as I can tell, he didn't have much experience with her. Gypsy is a character created by the awesome Jerry Conway during his Detroit era for Just Like America. Yes, and in this book right here, Task Force, and this is just my personal theory of why she's here, because in the case of this particular book, Gypsy was a regular character in this book. She was one of the 2 regular mainstays in this book, along with Martian Manhunter, who was a leader just like Task Force. Task Force was simply this. It was simply kind of like the Justice League Black Ops team. That's the simple gist of it. They're basically comprised of not a lot of well-known superheroes in DC Comics. Just Nightwing was briefly part of the team for 3 issues, like 1 mission, that was it. But a lot of the time, usually like B or C-list heroes, usually who are technically part of the Justice League, but not on the main team. Not part of International Europe. Yet it's the characters who don't get featured in those books. They have characters like Triumph, who was a creation of Mark Waid. There's like several characters. Denny O'Neil was not the only writer who wrote this book. We also did Michelini. And there was one writer who wrote the longest, and that was Christopher Priest. He came on to the book with issue 17 and wrote up until issue 37, which was the last issue of the series. And surprisingly, it's like the first Justice League series to not have an annual. Yes, that's something interesting that we can say about Task Force. The main book for Justice League, which was Justice League America at this point, that had annuals. Europe had annuals. Task Force didn't. There was also just like quarterly, but that was simply just a book came every few months. So, but in the case Task Force, this was a monthly series and never had an annual, which is surprising. Mostly put for the just like Task Force issues, it's just Green Arrow, Gypsy, and Bronze Tiger, or Bruce Wayne, while he's looking for Jack Drake, the father of Tim Drake, and Sandra McKnight, who is a doctor, who's basically his physical therapist, who he's developing attraction to. And that's what you can say is mostly what the majority of the storyline is. Him searching for her. I mean, first, basically, Bruce Wayne and Alfred go to Santa Prisca, the home of Bane, to search for her. And of course, he gets help of Bronze Tiger and eventually Gypsy. Gypsy was there at the request of Martian Manhunter. Green decided to help out because he felt like it. Yep. By the way, after these 2 issues, do the Task Force characters, do they appear in the next part of the storyline? Nope. Basically, in the Shadow of the Bat issues, we have Batman going to England. Yes. This kind of loosely connects to the Quarry storyline that comes right after this. Yeah, where he assumes the identity of Sir Grey, and he stops basically a noble, from killing a man who disrupted his hunt. Yeah. And he slowly, of course, the storyline, and it also meets up with the character, the Hood. You're thinking, the Hood. Wasn't that also an alias used by Green Arrow in the first season of Arrow? Yes, but this is a completely different character. Yeah, this character would also return for the Justice League, just for the Batman Incorporated stuff. Yes. This is him. This is the Hood. He is a British vigilante who was hired by Bruce Wayne to help him search for Sandra McKnight. Yep. And by the end of this storyline, he does get back Jack Drake, who has been held captive by this guy named Asap. Yeah, he gets back Jack Drake, not much a problem here, but yeah. Plus, you gotta love the Brian Surf covers. These covers are utterly fantastic. And it's something, though, he also did the Legend of Dark Knight issues. Yep, it's mostly like a 6-part. It's mostly like you have 2 issues sitting. Basically, you can kind of say that we have like 2 plus 3 is 5. Basically, have an 8-part storyline for the search. Rather than just the conclusion of KnightQuest. Yes, it's mostly set up for what happens later. Eventually, he does recover Sandra McKnight, though she's been degraded to some of a child. Thanks to Asap, he himself was killed by Sandra. Oh yeah, and Sandra is a healer. Not in the terms of being a doctor, but in the terms of the fact she has healing powers. Yep, healing powers. Something she never expressed previously, and she apparently has them. And apparently they torture her by having her use the powers particularly on one guy who keeps slitting his arm. Yep. So Jack Drake himself basically gets back, no problem at all. And Sandra, of course, is taken off someplace to be taken care of. At one point, Bruce Wayne proposes to her. She doesn't accept. She doesn't say anything about it. The question's never answered. It's a plot point that's completely ignored afterwards. And we have Bruce Wayne go back to Gotham. He's mostly recovered. He can actually move around because most of the storyline he's actually in a wheelchair. And during the course of the Quarry storyline, Alfred resigns. Yep, Alfred resigns as Bruce Wayne's butler. Oh, and don't worry, he does come back after this. So, there's that. Yeah, so he contacts John Paul Valley to keep an eye on Bruce Wayne, which does the whole thing with the Quarry storyline. And then we have the Robin issue, which is the conclusion to the whole KnightQuest stuff. Yeah, Bruce Wayne is informed of what John Paul Valley's been up to. And when Alfred sees the mansion, he nearly has a heart attack of how terrible condition the place is. Where there's broken windows, there's cobwebs anywhere. He proceeds to clean up as his last task. And Batman, of course, Bruce Wayne does come home. He does briefly try to fight John Pavel, but don't worry, he's not. Even though he can basically move, he doesn't have physical memory yet. So he wants to do a crash course. He happens to know somebody basically help him train. And that leads to Knight's end storyline. This storyline is actually pretty good. I thoroughly enjoy it. Though I do agree that just like Task Force have really no business being here, but it's actually a pretty good reason why. I mean, Bruce Wayne can barely move, so he needs basically backup. He needs people to assist him basically with searching for these two people. Jack Drake himself does recover, and he's still recurring. He was still a regular character in the Robin books, in the Robin series up until his death and Identity Crisis. But this is a pretty good story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Pretty fun storyline, and it's thoroughly enjoyable to read. And I can't wait to get my hands on Knight's End, which is the next book to get in this series. Yeah, surprisingly, there's only 2 more books left to review for this storyline. I have reviewed Shock already. I'm still gonna get it, but I've already reviewed it. But next book, hopefully to read for the storyline, will be Knight's End. Alright, next up is another book featuring Batman and the Justice League. We have, JLA, World Without Justice League. The last trade from the original printing of the JLA series that printed this particular ongoing series that was back in 1987. Yes, and here's the strange thing about this run. The entire thing was never finished being collected. They kept skipping issues. Honestly, there was no reason for this at all. Looking up, DC had the decency in the previous decade to actually have new printing for this series and had the whole series give a brand new printing. This book is simply put an Infinite Crisis tie-in. Yes, the Justice League Watchtower has been destroyed. At this point in time, the Watchtower, their base was on the moon, not an orbiting space station that people tend to think of. Yes, that was pretty much the Justice League base operation during this period of time. The whole thing of the space station thing, that's been around since the 70s. That was their base for majority of the 70s up until around the mid-80s, where they had to go back. They had to have a factory, and then it was like back to the original headquarters, then out of the UN, and now with this base operation was destroyed. In case you wonder who destroyed it, it was Superboy Prime who destroyed it. Yeah, in this book, they don't really investigate it. It's mostly this just covers the last 5 issues of this series. It lasts 125 issues and have 4 annuals. And here's the strange thing about those annuals. Even with the new printing, the annuals were never put into trade. They were skipped. Again. I'm like, seriously, you recollect this whole series in 9 books, but you don't put the annuals there. What is your problem, DC? What do you have against these annuals? Yeah. In case you wonder what some of the characters in this cover. Well, in the case of Shazam, Captain Marvel, he does appear in this cover. These are the characters you can expect to appear in the storyline. You have Aquaman, Batman, Black Canary, Flash, Green Arrow. We also have the John Stewart Green Lantern, a character named Dawn. Let's see, if I remember correctly, yeah. They also have Supergirl pops up in here, which this is probably just after her initial opening storyline in her main book. That's probably where the place where this is. And this storyline is just okay. Now the storyline is written by Bob Harris, who at one point was the editor-in-chief of DC Comic Books. The artwork is done by Tom Durenick, which actually is a pretty good art. Yeah, here's some sample of his artwork. The artwork, in my opinion, is actually pretty damn good. The cover artist is basically Daniel Kuna, which I love this guy's artwork. Now, there's some people who don't like his artwork. I personally love it. I think it's great for a good cover artist. And this is the same artist who worked on the Freedom Fighter series from Joe Palmer and Justin Gray. Yeah, he worked on those books. And I thoroughly enjoy the covers here. They're really good. Mostly put, you can definitely say, it's just the Justice League disbanding. But they want to solve one last case before they fully disband prior to the events of Infinite Crisis. Yeah, they also have return of Donna Troy. And they keep saying, I thought you were dead. She's like, I got better. And of course, it's obviously pointing out with Black Canary to Green Arrow, hey, you died before and you came back. Yeah. But here's the thing. Donna Troy, she was dead for 2 years before she came back. Oliver Queen was dead a lot longer. You wonder how long he was dead for? He was dead for about 5 years. Yeah, he got killed off in Green Arrow 101, and he was brought back at the start of Kevin Smith's run in 2003. Yeah, he was brought back the same year that Donna Troy died. Yeah. I'm not kidding about that. How he came back was actually pretty bizarre, to say the least. It involved basically Hal Jordan doing that. Hal Jordan does briefly appear in the storyline. Oh, yeah, and Green Arrow. Yeah, I do not like how the characters treat him here. They treat him like crap because at one point he actually had a one-night stand with Dawn, despite the fact he's dating Black Canary. By the way, one of 2 times he cheats on her prior to these two getting married. Do you know the other woman he slept with? And apparently, I don't know if Black Canary knew this. He slept with Black Lightning's niece in his own title. But yet, apparently Black Canary knew nothing about that, but she did know about this Dawn relationship. And both he and Dawn regretted doing it. And she forgives him. Basically, Black Canary does forgive him for this because it was a mistake on his part. And probably done moment of weakness. Yes, but one thing I don't like that they do in here is they reference just JLA Year 1. I was not really a big fan of that miniseries. I mean, I think it was written really well. I didn't like the stupid retcons where, okay, they kept Hal Jordan and Aquaman part of the founding members of the team, but they had Black Canary part of the founding members of the team. Yeah, it's like pretty much what people you think is the founding members of the team, which originally was Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, and Aquaman. Out of all these members, guess how many basically were not part of the Year 1 lineup? 3 of them. Yeah, they took away Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. They took these 3 away from the founding membership, and they replaced Wonder Woman with Black Canary, and there was like a couple other characters. Now, yes, they were based out of the Secret Sanctuary, aka Mount Justice, but I was not really a fan of this. This was a stupid retcon. And luckily enough, Infinite Crisis deemed that particular thing not canon. Because even Jeff Johns probably realized, though, yeah, that particular origin story of Justice League is stupid. And I'm undoing that, restoring the actual version of the origin story. Their first appearance was actually in Brave and the Bold #20. I like that first appearance better, and I like that lineup better than what they did for Year 1. Why in the world they said reference to Year 1 in here, I have no idea. But that's basically what DC did. Yep. For a series that started off really good that was done by Grant Morrison, this is a weak storyline. Yeah, it is pretty weak. I would say the best thing about this storyline is the artwork. The artwork is really good. Tom Marenick does a great job with this. Aside from that, it's mostly the characters argue each other constantly over secrets, stuff that happened in the main book. I mean, you had to have been reading the book and understand what the heck is going on here. They don't even mention the fact that, oh yeah, they even have Aquaman. Now, here's the thing. Aquaman's title was actually brought back this period because his previous book got canceled prior to the start of this run. And then during after Grant Morrison left, when Kurt Busiek was in the book, he kind of revived the title, which lasted for about 60 issues. Yeah, it was actually canceled not long after this. It was actually a pretty good book. I had thoroughly enjoyed it. Where they had they had a few different writers. They had John Osborne in the book. They had Patrick Gleason in the artwork, which I thought was really good. It was a pretty good run. I actually thoroughly enjoyed reading online. This was about a couple years ago I read it. But this, yeah, if you're a fan of the Grant Morrison run for this book, and you get to this after reading the entire book, this is a pretty... It's not a terrible story per se, but it's mostly focused on characters that you probably won't care about. That's simple gist of it. I give this book roughly an 8 out of 10. Very disappointing end to a great series. Now, of course, what came after this, it was a heck of a lot better. Yeah, that's thanks to the relaunch by Brad Meltzer, which I do have the trade for that, and I have reviewed that. Plus the first trade that came right after that. Yeah, you're probably thinking, wait, did you technically review these issues next to reviewing JLA Volume 9? Yes, but I had my stack of books to read and review, so why not? Yeah. But in the case of some of the characters who pop up, like you see in the cover here, like in the case of Plastic Man, he does nothing. Mr. Miracle does nothing. It's mostly focused on like a handful of characters. While like they also have the subplot where someone is treating the disbanded Justice League in a really terrible way, which that part of the storyline is never resolved. It's mostly focused on the key. Which I'm like, the key? Interesting. I mean, he's an interesting, cool villain for Justice League, but yeah, the end of the JLA book with him, that's like, okay, that's interesting. That's fine. Not really a big problem there. Yeah. But apparently after all these crises that have been going on, which these are the crises that happened prior to this book, you have Identity Crisis, Day of Vengeance, Books of Magic, Rand Thanagar War, Villains United, Omega Project, and Crisis of Conscience. Yeah, you have these 7 crises happening prior to this, and this apparently screwed up the space-time continuum when it comes to the series. This basically was a straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. But yeah, not much else to say when it comes to this particular book. I will eventually review the rest of the trades that actually collect this particular run, because this actually is a really good series. I like some of the stuff aside from Grant Morrison, which people love that run. I enjoy it too. I like some of Kurt Busiek came up with, but the stuff that Bob Harris did in this book really was not interesting at all. I might eventually get a chance to review the early stuff when I get a chance to get my hands on the trades eventually. Okay, so that's it for this particular review. And that's probably going to be it for videos today because, well, I probably have to go to sleep pretty soon. I probably have to basically go to bed pretty soon because I have to get work early in the morning. So, yeah. So, until you see the next video. Bye.